Welcome back to the Relationships Made Simple for Men podcast with me, Bryce Bauer. I'm going to start with a joke for you today. So, there's a commercial flight flying to Hawaii. Most people are going there for vacation. You got businessmen, couples, families. Anyways, the plane goes down in the ocean. Everyone dies. Super sad. Next thing you know, everyone's standing in line at the pearly gates. And there's a few guys standing together wondering what's going on. They look over and they see God talking to someone and then letting them in through the gates. So as they get up to the front of the line, God tells the first guy, "Good news, you made it into heaven, but unfortunately, you weren't very faithful to your wife. So you're going to be driving around in a Honda Civic." And the guy's like, "Okay, it's not too bad." He goes in. The next guy walks up to God. God pulls out this guy's resume and he's like, "Whoa, buddy, you were cheating like the whole time. We're going to give you a moped." And the guy's like, "Fair enough." He walks in. Now, the third guy walks up to God. God looks at his sheet and he's like, "Good work, my man. You were totally faithful to your wife. We're giving you a Corvette." The guy's all excited. He walks through the gates. Later that day, the guy with the Civic is driving around and exploring. He sees the guy on the moped. Ring, ring. He waves to him. And then he sees the guy with the Corvette pulled over on the side of the road. So he pulls over to check on him. And the guy with the Corvette just looks devastated. So the guy in the Civic is like, "Dave, what's going on, man? It's beautiful here. We made it. You got a Corvette? What's the problem?" And the guy with the Corvette goes, "Man, I just saw my wife go by on rollerblades." Hopefully, you got a good laugh out of that one. Life can be serious, but it also isn't. We need to find ways to laugh and even laugh at ourselves sometimes. Full transparency, I've never cheated on Jenny emotionally or physically in the 11 years that we've been together. But in my teen years, I cheated on every girlfriend that I had. I was always trying to get around and I lied about it. So even though that's not the topic today, I feel for you if you're having to confront some of the skeletons in your closet. It does not feel good to know that you hurt someone that really trusted you and loved you. The topic I want to talk about today is how to avoid becoming roommates. You've probably heard this term, roommate syndrome, and it is a very commonly searched topic by men according to Google. Now, there's a few ways to look at this. First is that you may think you want to avoid being a roommate more than you actually do. If you spend most of your time not focusing on your relationship, you work a lot, or you have hobbies, maybe you do stuff with the kids, that's starting to sound like you just want a roommate and a co-parent. Maybe you want to have sex with your roommate sometimes or go out and do stuff once in a while, but that's closer to a roommate than it is to a fulfilling, intimate, connected marriage. Basically, what I'm saying is this isn't binary, and there can be multiple reasons why you've set it up this way. Ultimately, I think it boils down to our own relational capacity as a couple, but I don't want to negate other factors. For instance, if you want to give your family a good life, send your kids to college, buy the boat, the vacations, whatever, you might feel like you have to constantly be working, growing your business, moving up in your career, taking every opportunity to make more money. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have to be honest about how much we're investing in our relationship and our own ability to be close to someone. If you avoid vulnerability altogether, your capacity is probably pretty small. And if you haven't practiced this with your partner, your relationship's capacity is small. So even if you had the time, you would still have to grow your capacity to expand what's possible for your relationship. And your wife would have to do that too. Usually women have a bigger capacity naturally because they get more nurturing in adolescence. It's okay to talk about feelings with friends. So men often come into adulthood and marriage less developed emotionally. but hopefully you get what I'm saying here. If we made a graph of how you spend your time, and you had sleep at 30%, some people feel lucky if they even get that, and you had 40% work, 5 to 10% doing your hobbies, 15% spending time with the kids, household stuff, and then you had a little sliver of time spent with your partner, but it's not very focused on the us. It's more just like doing stuff. We can probably predict what type of relationship you will have. There are certain personality pairings where that might really work for both people. You like spending time together, you have fun, but you'll still probably be more in the friend zone. If you have a personality pairing that fights a lot, strong opinions with a conflict pattern that escalates, and without much experience in repair, you might feel like you're enemies. It might feel worse than a roommate, but it's the same idea. Roommate equals not much connection. They're just a person you live with that you trust to be in your house and not steal stuff. It's also worth noting that stages of life can play a part. If one person is in a stage where they're grinding through school or trying to move up in their career, or you have young children, you may have to set some context with each other and be really intentional about when and how you spend time together and how you keep the flame alive because of the lack of resources. I get it. My younger sister has a 1-year-old right now, and I know for the last year, her and her husband have had to trade off getting up in the middle of the night. My sister has had to feed. Her husband has been really helpful, and they both work full-time jobs. So if they were to come in and see Jenny and I might not tell them that they just need to carve out more time. That may not be possible. We'd be talking about how to be skillful and intentional in all their interactions. They would have to be especially patient and compassionate with themselves and each other. Maybe this period of their life is survival. The problem I see in couples we work with, and specifically with men, is that they set a very low bar on connection, like real connection. I've kind of joked about this with some of my buddies that are dating in their mid and late 30s. When they tell me what they're looking for in a partner, I'll tell them, it sounds like you're looking for a female version of you, which they usually get a good laugh at. But it's true. You're looking for someone that has all the same thoughts and interests and wants to spend the same amount of time together. They want someone with the same libido who's going to just fully let them be them without changes. That's the perfect relationship. I get that those things are important. You probably do want to be close to on the same page in high value areas. But I think men and women too have never been taught that there's a deeper form of relationship that's possible when we think about how we can help each other grow. I have this theory that we're really all things all the time, fundamentally, and that over time we disown some of those parts, either because they're seen as not okay, or we don't even know that they exist. Personal example, and I can say this because hindsight is 2020. I was a child that was highly anxious around other people. I'm still trying to figure out exactly why. I have some ideas, but I was socially anxious to the point where I wouldn't even speak to anyone outside my immediate family or friend group. And even in connecting with them, I could feel anxious. Anyways, as I came into the world as an adult, I had a story about myself that I don't really like people generally. I like a few select people, and I enjoyed a lot of time by myself, which that part is partially true. I do enjoy time by myself. I need time by myself more than most. And when I came into a relationship with Jenny, she wanted to show me off to people, go to her parents' house, go to friend parties. We even did a 4-day camp out with her friends. And initially, I hated it. And I started to tell her about that. I'm not really sure about spending this much time at your parents' house. I don't think I want to do another trip like that. I don't really want to go to that event tonight. And as Jenny began to push back on some of that, meaning she wanted to explore it, I started to realize that what I didn't want to confront was my social anxiety. And because we had been trying really hard to set an intention in our relationship around growth, I was able to see that this was a huge growth opportunity. It was much bigger than whether I like something or don't like something. Now, had I not seen that, I probably would have created a story that Jenny is so needy, she's controlling, she's trying to manipulate me to be different. I just don't like those things. You know how that all goes. But now it's rarely an issue. We're pretty social together. I've learned to embrace that more. I've seen the benefits of speaking about my anxiety, growing my capacity to hold that in social settings. And I still get to say when I don't want to do something. I might be on the spectrum a little bit. I can't handle loud noises. I don't get a lot of the jokes that people make. I can be very dry. But the point is that I used a difference that Jenny and I had to grow. And I do see a lot of men missing that and even turning it against their partners by saying, I'm a this, you're a that. You want too much. You're causing a problem. I can't do what you're asking. I'm not interested in what you're needing from me. Stuff like that kills relationships. That will turn you into roommates or worse. Another thing you can do to prevent roommate syndrome is to check in with your partner directly. Depending on how you guys communicate, you may say something like, hey, I know there's a lot going on. I'm just wondering how the connection's feeling. I would like to do whatever I can to make sure we don't turn into just roommates. She might really appreciate that. Of course, it goes without saying, actually listen. For most men, and I could be wrong on this, I'd trust your wife's opinion on the state of the marriage more than your own because men tend to have more blind spots around connection. So listen, take note, make some commitments, keep those commitments. If you're asking her once a week what you can do, and you say you're going to do a thing, and then you don't do a thing, and then you ask again next week, there's no point. Find some friends or other men to hold you accountable. This is part of the reason why I run a men's group. You can explore potential commitments that you could make and be held accountable to them if you don't have a place like that. We have a funny way of talking ourselves out of our own commitments in some areas. If your relationship is at a point where you're sure you're just roommates, you got to get some help. I don't know any other way to put it. Therapy, coaching, individually and together. If she's already been doing her own personal work, don't worry so much about her. You go do yours. And then when it feels right, you need to do some work together. A round of therapy or coaching is about 12 sessions. And you want to do that over the course of 3 to 6 months. I get asked that question quite a bit. What do we suggest? And that's it. That's why the only coaching package we sell is 12 sessions. You don't need to commit to working with us for 2 years, and 1 or 2 sessions probably isn't going to cut it. Find someone that you vibe with and give it an honest go. If you find a licensed therapist that accepts your insurance and you like them, great. They can almost always bill for individual sessions. There is not a diagnostic code for marriage problems. There are some options there if you want to get insurance to pay for it. But either way, if your marriage is on the rocks, you got to try something. And it will be an investment. Time, energy, money. Time, you need to put at least a few hours a week into learning. Energy, yes. Emotional energy, especially yes. And money, it's probably going to cost $2,000 to $4,000, sometimes even more, to really throw the kitchen sink at it. Give it all you got. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. We offer our first sessions half off. You can find links on our websites. And if you're a man listening to this and you've never been part of a men's group and you want to grow in this way, what I'm saying resonates with you, come join the men's group that I run. I promise that I will do everything I can to make these groups helpful. That's all I have for today. I'll see you next week.